Well, how you guys doing? This is the last day of Crypto Invest Summit. We're all here having fun, right? Yeah. So, we're here today talking about gaming, esports, and entertainment on the blockchain. My name's Shea Newkirk. I go by Stash or Crypto Stash. And so, I'm happy to be here with my co-panelists here. We have Chase, we have Rafael, and we have Dan here, who are going to talk to us today a little bit about, blockchain, esports, and gaming. So definitely just want to get into it and kind of see. We'll take some questions probably here at the end, and just trying to have fun with it. So that's kind of what esports and gaming is all about, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just to kind of kick things off, guys, what do you when you look at this wide world of blockchain that's merging here with the entertainment industry, how do you see blockchain in general impacting the entertainment industry as a whole here in the next 5 years? How do you guys see that in your eyes? You want to start, Chase?
I think that my expertise are going to fall on a little bit different part of this, so I'm going to pass this down the line, let
All
you
right.
jump
Sure.
right into it.
In our case, blockchain has delivered every single bit of the promise. We essentially took a very famous and loved sport, fantasy sports. We started on that platform actually before we integrated a coin, and we've seen how it's been embraced by people, not just in the United States, but people from all over the world. So essentially, all these people that are playing our platforms from over 50 different countries now using a single currency, no limit coin, which we developed specifically for gaming, instant transfer, no cost, and we see it nothing but growth, but we have to bridge that divide between the crypto sphere and the regular sphere, and that's where we're at right now. We need to bridge, we need to go from the crypto world out to the regular world and bring people into our crypto sphere and start getting them comfortable with crypto in all the different applications. In our case, it's fantasy sports, it's online poker, it's many other gaming applications that we are developing.
Yeah. So do you think that the drive for people to want to have their own easy platform to use globally, where it's a liquid platform for them to come in to do a fantasy sport like football, because that's a very popular thing here in the United States to do fantasy football. I think that something like that is a mainstream use case that people can get into it, and they can but they can do it and compete with people across the globe versus it being something that's done in fiat and they're using your own token. Do you think that's something that is going to that application itself is going to really help the industry grow over the next 5 years, because you've kind of connected yourself to a sport that is actually really popular and something that people do quite often?
Sure. I mean, we started with NFL, but now we've got the whole set. In 1 year, we went from just having NFL to soccer, NFL, hockey, MLB, even a game that we allow you to put together a team, so to speak, of crypto, and then you compete against other people. We call it fantasy crypto. We've got eSports coming up, MMA and cricket, which is viewed by more people than the Super Bowl. So really, blockchain has allowed us to do that. I mean, because we were just stuck in a U.S. market, competing against all the forces against you. Moving money is so hard with credit cards and banks.
Yeah.
And suddenly, crypto just broke everything down and opened up the whole world for us.
I mean, the biggest thing for blockchain for gaming, not like video gaming, but actual casino gaming.
Yeah.
For me, we used to own one of the biggest poker sites in the world, and the hardest part was making people feel comfortable about cheating. With blockchain, it removes, it basically perfects things for us. So we can provide somebody, I don't run the poker site anymore, obviously, but we could provide somebody with a platform that could remove that from the back of their heads. And also, Bitcoin itself has become very prevalent in online gaming because it's been one of the easiest and fastest ways to deposit money onto these sites, and also to get money off. I mean, we were using Bitcoin 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, in 2011, 2012, 2013, when it was nothing. It was $7, $700, $200 in those price ranges. We were using Bitcoin back then because it was just something that was fast and easy, and it's always been so difficult to get money online in the casino space, in the online poker space. It's been so difficult because PayPal turns you down, Visa hates you, like
nobody wants to work with it. So Bitcoin or using cryptos makes it a lot liquid and makes it easier for you to get in and out of.
There's some poker sites that only use crypto.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So do you feel that mainstream games like that are going to be kind of the mainstream entry for people coming in, like their first exposure to crypto? Somebody who's not a trader, somebody who's not necessarily into some of these other major projects that some of us kind of geek out on, but people who are just love to gamble. Do you think that's really something that's going to bring more people in over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's been happening for literally half a decade.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because we just don't have a lot of choices in the online gaming space. There just isn't a lot of options. And the reason that poker sites fail, the reason that sports betting is hard, the reason that online casino is hard is getting money online. Same thing with cannabis space. The biggest hurdle for cannabis is getting money online and for them to even accept money.
Yeah.
The reason that these cannabis companies can't go deposit 30 grand a day in 20s into Wells Fargo is Wells Fargo doesn't want $30,000 a day in 20s.
Well, you mean they don't want their weed money? They don't want to take all those dollar bills in?
Even though
Visa and MasterCard.
Visa and MasterCard
Yeah.
are just
Right. Well, they have a stranglehold on the whole market, and it's taken us a long time to finally put in a Visa and MasterCard gateway. So now people can come to our website, our games, and buy right in without even knowing that it's crypto. It just says buy in for $50, swipe, boom.
Right.
And
In fact, there's an outside around that the same way. Like merchant processing is literally the hardest sphere in the world to be in. Most people don't understand like the true epidemic that is banking. And it's, the banks are hard enough, but the processors, Visa, MasterCard, make things almost impossible in every spectrum, especially when it's new or high-paced or a lot of money involved, solely because they're trying to build fees and structures to police it. And believe it or not, they make more money policing it and all of the negativity that comes from it than they do processing it. That's why they don't really want the change. The fees, chargebacks, things that go with it are actually a very, very lucrative business.
Astronomical.
That where crypto and all
like
of these...
Chase did over 160 million in revenue last year. He would have done 300 or 400 or 500 million in revenue if he wasn't having so many conflicts with the banks.
Right.
There's just so many declines because they're just always like battling for people to just be able to spend their money.
On top of the fact that you're paying, pretty high fees for taking credit cards
High
online.
fees, they retain a certain percentage, then
And
the
holds.
chargebacks, and by the time you get your money, weeks have passed. So, I mean, that's when you want to have them, but at the same time you say, man, I'm glad I'm in crypto. One of these days, I'm not going to need them. And when we just started, one of the main things that I feel about gaming is you need to have an instant transfer coin and a coin that costs basically sub a penny to move, because people still mind costs. Even, we love the tokens, but when you have to pay to move a token, it's an issue. People, gamblers love to gamble. They're willing to lose everything on the gambling. But when it comes to fees, they don't want to lose anything.
Right. Yeah. You're already taking a risk
God
there.
forbid they lose
you
1%.
really
You're
want
so
those
right.
fees
It's
on
not even
top?
funny, though.
You make a really great point there, and something you said earlier about your platform, where you can come to your platform, you can put your swipe your card right there, and the transaction itself is seamless. You're not buying tokens.
No.
You're just buying into the platform and to play the game that you want to play, or to do to get in the poker game, or to gamble the way you want to do it. And the tokens are done in the background. I think that's one of those things that we're going to see, over here the next 5 years. More and more UI changes where, things are tokenized, but they're not done in a way where it's incredibly obvious. It seems like a natural process that you're getting on there, and they may not even know that necessarily that they're using a tokenized gaming platform,
And people, one of the things that I'm most proud of is when people tell me, you know what, I wasn't into crypto before we got to your game. Now I understand it. I like it. It's great.
And that's kind of what speaks to what I was saying before about, what can we do to push adoption here in the next 5 years? And I think gaming really does that, because it gives people this incentive, like, if you can do it in a way where you incorporate blockchain or tokens into a game where the gameplay is amazing and seamless, and then they get exposed to crypto at the same time, I think that is a great first impression for a lot of people.
My competitors, they're 10 to 12 points behind when a dollar hits their platform. They eat it, and they have to make it back up through fees. With crypto, you're reducing fees by 95, 97%. So right there, you're already way ahead of the game. Then you have to basically, develop your business and expand it and exploit it. And there's still a bridge to cross, and it's still a divide, and people still feel uneasy about crypto. So we do have a big task, but we've got a deployed operational platform with 500 nodes, proof of stake, and we see growth before our eyes, and it's very exciting.
Yeah. Very cool. So, kind of segueing off of that, what do you guys see here that you're excited about in the space right now that has to do about gaming? Not necessarily where we're going in the future or where things are going to be, but what actually is happening right now that you guys see that is actually an exciting element that has a lot of potential?
I feel like it's one arena that wasn't beat to shit prior. So like people still have faith in it. Gamification, the human emotions of challenge will always be there. So, I mean, the best companies in the world have, gamified their platform to get more use case out of it, to get more people involved. I think it takes the mindset almost off of cryptocurrency and shows as a use case as it's happening, be like, oh shit, I'm using crypto right now. This is all happening versus like it being pounded down, because you have to understand we're kind of in this, as we plateaued up and came back down, people have this assembly of like, is crypto good? Is it bad? What should I do with it? How should I play with it? So the idea of kind of like more nurturing the relationship, saying, hey, you're having a great time, and also look what's happening.
Right.
You're doing it in this platform, and it was easier, and holy shit, it worked. And now you're seeing the excitement come back to people, and they're seeing reality from it, instead of just being like, give me 10 grand or put 10 grand to something, when's my Lambo coming? Do you see what I'm saying? Like that ideology, I think, is really a positive thing to it. And honestly, the idea of challenge is probably the smartest way you can build anything. If you want two people to get involved in something, challenge them.
Right.
In any aspect. I mean, human nature is to compete whether you like it or not. Your body is competing against the person right next to you, the person behind you, and every person in life. So when you give people the option to do that, again, you've taken their mind state away from where you're at, and they're focusing on something better. I think it's the perfect way to bring things into market, because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And now it becomes like, we need this to be there because we've been using it for so long. Oh my God, look at this.
Right, and so they're focusing on the gamification, they're focusing on the experience of it, and not necessarily on what's transpiring behind, but then they still get the exposure.
Correct, and they get to look into it, being like, oh, I didn't think about this. I thought, cryptocurrency was something that I see here and there that people invest into. Oh my God, I'm using it. Like, we need more people using it, because you need the mom and pops, you need the people in the right down the center of the country to understand what's going on. I mean, when you're in these hubs and places like this, you kind of are on the cusp of it. So we all know and understand it's going to take some time, but for someone who doesn't know that, this idea of showing real use changes people's perception on the future. And you want something to evolve, perception needs to change, always and in every market, continually.
Yeah, and I think, gaming, that's one of the biggest use cases I see right now when you talk about like actual use cases for crypto, where we're using it, what makes people want to use it.
Yep.
I feel like, there's a whole large market out there for gaming. So we've talked a lot about like kind of gambling-focused gaming, right? But in general, the eSports market is a massive market. There's it's a $1 billion industry that people have switched this mentality where 10 years ago maybe you asked a kid like, well, what do you want to be? And they're like, oh, I want to be a football player. I want to be a basketball star. Now you ask a kid now, what do they want to be? They want to be an eSports gamer.
Yeah.
They want to be in the big arena where there's everyone's sitting around and they're sitting on their computer and they're just pounding away. And so I think that through gaming is also where we're going to see younger generation come in through this too, because that is something that has not only taken a younger generation by storm, but you see everyone sitting around all the time on their cell phones anyways, and what are they doing? Mobile games, playing Farmville, playing some other game on their phone. And so I think that those types of things really give us an intro into gaming, and it really makes a good use case, are you saying, for what's going on now? You guys, is there anything else that you guys are like excited about what's happening now? I mean,
well, we're right on the edge of esports. I mean, we've got the feeds on, we're working on them. We understand that esports is huge, and we want to participate because we see it as a great way to expose crypto to a whole sector, a young sector that eventually will grow up with your crypto. So you got to get them young and early, get them to know your crypto. And another exciting thing, at least for our company and in terms of gaming, is the recent Supreme Court decision to allow states to legalize and operate online sports. So a few of our competitors are already doing deals with land-based casinos. We're going to be chasing those. And after 1 year, I mean, we're announcing next week, which is kind of something that we haven't talked about.
Sneak peek right here.
Next week, I mean, the credit card gateway, which took us so long because of the problems that
Biggest hurdles.
but they're slowly warming up. And we're going to have that gateway both for poker and fantasy sports. We're very excited about that. And again, it's a great time for crypto, so people can't confuse the fact that, yes, the price had to come down a little bit, stabilize, with the usefulness and the solutions that blockchain brings. I mean, nothing has changed. Blockchain is solving many problems, reducing costs of moving money into the platforms by 7%, allowing us to operate at a third or a fourth of what our competitors do in fees and make money at it. So all those things are happening to us in the real world. It's a real ecosystem that's operating and deployed, and we just can't wait to get eSports and MMA and even cricket.
Right.
We're putting it out this year.
Yeah. So what about you, Daniel? Is there anything outside of maybe the gaming or the gambling realm that you're excited for in the gaming or entertainment industry that's kind of happening right now?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is it's just how much better technology is getting to make people more comfortable. Because for me, I've been doing this since 2014, installing the very first Bitcoin ATM into America and trying to convince people to use an ATM to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's half a decade later, and it's still not comfortable for people to just buy Bitcoin or buy any crypto. And the technology is compounding faster and how much better it's getting. Meaning, you look at 10 years ago, we didn't, is that me? 10 years ago, we didn't have an iPhone. We didn't have most social media networks. We didn't have Postmates, Lyft, Uber, all these things. Nowadays, in these last 10 years, it's like hundreds of years of technology.
Exponential.
But now, the next 10 years, or really the next 3 years, will be like the last 10 years on steroids.
Yeah.
And so just the fact that we have hundreds of billions of dollars that's been poured into the cryptocurrency space, lots and lots of hedge funds that finally got in, lots of zillionaires and billionaires, besides the fact that tens of millions of the masses have come in, just the fact that so much money, so much smart people have left their jobs to create careers in the cryptocurrency space, in the blockchain space, that's the most compelling part to me is it's still going to take them a couple of years to work. Just because they got $30 million in their ICO or they got $100 million in their fund, just because they got that money, well, they got to go build those things. All that money came in a year ago. So now, 2019, 2020, and 21, now we'll start seeing those companies that got 38 million 2 years ago start coming out with what they were doing.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And so, I think that we've seen some of those companies here, and particularly, when I come back to a focus on like more traditional gaming aspects, Engine has been one of my favorite projects as far as them being able to put out tools and things that really are going to help with that kind of development of the game industry, meeting that kind of crux of blockchain. And so, I don't know what experience you guys have with actual like blockchain-based games or gaming, but in general, we're looking at kind of this revolution in being able to own your own digital assets. So if you look at places like OpSkins, where you can sell your digital skins online for games, and you actually can own those now. And so they're moving towards this model where it's actually put on the blockchain. You physically own that item, or digitally own that item, and then you can go sell that item. And so you have this kind of revolution of also in traditional gaming where you can monetize the time that you're spending in games as well. So whereas you've been able to do that obviously in like gambling platforms where you're playing fantasy sports, you're putting time into it, and you have an ability to kind of somehow monetize that. I feel like that's also coming to traditional gaming as well. How do you guys feel about it? Do you guys know much about how that works, or like NFTs in general?
I don't follow too much, but I always think of like Fortnite and how much they sold. Imagine if you could build a secondary marketplace for that, if there is. Again, I'm not too familiar. I have young daughters instead of sons, unfortunately, so they don't get to game as much.
Oh, they're not playing Fortnite? They do the dances, though? Do they get up there doing the floss and stuff?
All the dance and stuff. But I always thought that there's like, they give an idea for secondary markets. I come from the trading world. I love the idea of secondary markets, people to people. Yeah. Because it's like reality built. I come from a world of algorithms, trading markets, and it's not people anymore. It's a computer program. So it makes it very jaded and one-sided. So the secondary markets are pretty unique in the sense that two people can decide something. And this is where it's going. I mean, what were they just saying that like Sears and all these companies went down and Fortnite sold like $3 billion in online digital clothes?
Yep.
So imagine a market to be tokenized in that, and you've built like an entire secondary market that just is curated by massive volume. So, I mean, I truly believe once we kind of like get the stink off, and listen, the stink was caused by our own ease of use. I always make things like Coinbase, which is a phenomenal piece of software, but that ease of use was also ease of demise. It made people believe how easy it was to get in. It must be this easy to make money.
Yeah.
So I truly believe this will be one of the sectors that leads the way on our kind of way out of the pasture, as they say.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we're moving into the peer-to-peer betting space that will eventually lead to a decentralized, but we have to be careful when it comes to gambling. We don't just want to put it out there and not have any control over it.
Sure.
And certainly what you're talking about is one area that is very interesting. It started with Second Life, then Fortnite, and so forth. So there's a lot of areas. You've got the dApps, you've got the delegated proof of stake chains, you've got all the other chains. In our case, we're doing a $20 million raise this year through equity, which is a testament to what we're doing, because our investors see us as the trifecta: online, gaming, crypto.
Right.
And we see it as a proof of, not just a proof of concept, but proof that we can get funded not just through the ICOs, but actually through equity, which is going to allow us to go up against the big boys and really get out of the beta stage. Because we've been in beta a couple of years. We've done everything we need to do. Money flows in and out frictionless. Millions of coins go in, go out. Everybody just is amazed at how fast that happens. That's why we have to build our own coin. And, you know, if anybody signs up for Crypto Fantasy Sports today, use CIS 2019, and it'll give you 1,000 free coins. So I just had to plug that.
Nice shill. Good job being in there. So what do you think about, Dan? What do you think about like digital value, like that, how we value things that can maybe be in-game items?
So it's that's kind of what Chase said about Fortnite selling billions of dollars. For us in video game space and in the casino gaming space, digital currency or digital goods has one of the craziest values possible. And for the company itself, for the business, they're selling air, meaning they're selling something that costs them nothing. They have no product to ship, nothing to do.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it costs nothing, but yeah, I mean, there's still the time to produce that asset. Or
once you've made it, it costs nothing.
Yes,
is what
exactly.
I'm saying. Because you're making it regardless.
Yep.
Once you've made it, whether you sell 4 little ribbons or you sell 6 million ribbons, it's the exact same cost overhead structure for the companies themselves. So digital goods has always been a humongous market. Now it's just becoming easier and easier and easier because of the blockchain. What's going to have to happen, again, the big guys, the big companies are going to have to adopt it. So until EA Sports or the producers of Fortnite and these type of games, until they do it, it's just not going to have any real true bearing on the space. We need one of the major players to use it. Once they do it, everybody else will fall in line.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, I think that you make a good point there when you talk about hitting a mainstream audience. You know, right now, you know, if you really look at the blockchain gaming space, there are actually a lot of really great projects. There's a lot of people that are in the space that are playing these blockchain games or developing some of these solely blockchain-based games. One that I'm beta testing right now, which is a really popular one. It's a trading card game called Gods Unchained, and it's similar to like a Magic the Gathering, if you guys know that kind of old school card game, or Hearthstone, which is also a very popular one. But a lot of times I think that we look to some of these larger institutions as being kind of the gateway for everything to be mainstream. But I'm also a proponent, I think, of the underdog, as it were. Seeing that, hey, well, maybe while these guys are doing their model, there's always an opportunity for the underdog to come up with something that's going to be radically better that people are going to want to flock to anyways. And I think we've seen that in the gaming industry where people say, okay, well, I've been playing online poker for a long time, but it's been hard to be able to get my money in and out. It's hard to be able to take transactions. And now we come across something that's a significant improvement in liquidity on a platform like that. And so why would we use that instead of, oh, well, I'm going to wait until the big guys. I'm going to wait until the big guys get into the industry, and then that's when it's going to be mainstream, and that's when everyone's going to start using it. So I think we're at a point with blockchain technology that we want to make sure that it's not just keeping that old guard in place, but it's also giving opportunity for a new paradigm to be able to come to the surface as well.
I agree with that 100%. The problem, I think, that is, I think maybe I haven't lost my, there we go. It's just trust. You know, like the one big thing here is a lot of trust has been lost.
Yes.
And like, you know, I always say this, in business, you need to trust someone to do business with them. Once you're good, that's how you stick with them. So like he's saying, the big dogs need to come in just because the world needs some sort of stasis saying, okay, someone with real pull trusted. Because, I mean, listen, we've been doing crypto and messing with these coins for forever.
Right.
I mean, they all have use cases if you really think about it in some really interesting ways. But the world is, it has to be adopted to be utilized in a way that people all acknowledge to be safe. So like what I like right now is that, there's a secondary measure. It's another means that you can transact. So it's like giving you maybe a golden parachute or a plan B or a second measure.
You have options.
And in time, that plan B, if it proves to be better, more trustworthy, ease of use, it will just by natural selection take over plan A. I mean, gold, dollar, derivative swaps, and this has been the telltale sign of all time. The problem is the real problem I see is the nefarious characters that get their hands on the money, you know, and they have grand ideas, and so many people have been sold on such beautiful propositions, and then basically fairy dust has
White
come.
paper and a dream, man.
Listen, I mean,
know?
you can ask us. We invested in how many ICOs? 0, because it's just, you know, I looked at the idea of just, it was so fast and so uneducated. Even for the people that were phenomenal, it was hard for them to stand out in all of the sea of crap.
It was.
So I really like Danny's idea that we need someone big, or we just need a proponent to constantly fight the fight and stand ahead of it and show constant transparency, constant follow through, because yet no one has. Even like the newest guys in the game, everyone's trying, but we need like longevity.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, I mean, being a degenerate gambler myself, it's like I trust certain establishments because I know that, no matter what.
Go to my website.
Exactly. But no matter what, it's like if I go to the Win and I play, I know if I win $2 million, I'm going to get $2 million. There's not. So it's this idea of, is it all going to happen? Is it going to transpire? Because just
I'm
like
saying, what if the Win accepted Bitcoin, all the other casinos would jump in?
correct. So
Right now, the little casinos are doing it, so they're fighting the good fight.
Yep.
But they're getting 600 people a day coming through. The Win has 75,000 people a day walking through.
And being a gambler, I would love that. I mean, how many times have we rolled into Las Vegas at 2 in the morning on a Saturday, and I have no way to get money to anywhere? Like, please, by all means, let me use money.
Can you scan my QR code so I can get in on this? Yeah.
So again, it's just the whole idea. Listen, no one wants to tarnish it worse than it is. Everyone's kind of waiting, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Really, unfortunately, we used to have a bunch of people who are pioneering and diving through. Now we have a bunch of people kind of standing back and not being the one to want to like get their hands real dirty in the muck of it all. So I can't express enough the follow suit of that. Before we didn't want the big guys, we wanted to kind of leave the pioneer shore, but unfortunately, a bunch of bullshit and tomfoolery has kind of forced that we need someone big to come in to say, hey, here we are. Take a look at what's going on.
Similar to what happened to the internet boom, right? Everybody just put up .coms, raised millions of dollars, the pet sock and all of that, raised money. And after a while, everything got shooken out. But the technology did deliver. I mean, blockchain, in our case, we did something that nobody understands that you might appreciate. We came out with the first rake-free poker ever. And people were going crazy telling me it couldn't be done, and we said, yes, it can, because moving the money has no cost, and our business model is now subscription-based, $1 to $2 a month per player, that's all we need, and we charge money on the tournaments.
Right. But why do they trust you, though? Because that's the point you just brought up right now. Well, I go to Win because I trust Win is going to give me my $2 million in winnings. And so, when I look at, this whole idea of trust, and you say, oh, we need a big brand that we can trust. Why? I mean, I think blockchain brings the fact that you don't need to trust anymore. You can just verify on the blockchain. And I think that's the big movement that we see with issues like this, where it's like, okay, well, we have these old institutions that we just trust, but they've violated our trust time and time again. And you're right. For some reason, people are still like, no, I still trust them.
But it's come a long way. I mean, from 2013, where it was like, it was just for arms and drugs and money. Now it's a lot more mainstream. Now, when my mother calls me and says, "Hey, invest $500 for me in Bitcoin." I know it's the top. She called me right at $18,000. Right?
You were buying arms and drugs in 2013,
I was just gonna say, this
Is that
guy's
what it
living
is?
an
Like, he's
awesome
like,
life
hey, that's what I
over
was
here.
doing in 20. I don't know what you guys
Arms,
are
guns,
doing,
and
but-
drugs.
No, but that's what
We do need to
everybody.
hang out, actually.
That's what everybody associated
That was the
Bitcoin with
perception.
in 13, and it has moved a long way. I mean, we're
Yeah.
at a point where Jamie Dimon's talking about it. Everybody's talking about
Saying
it.
it's a scam, though.
What I mean more by, so what I'm saying is like your coin, your underlying asset. So say
Yeah.
someone wins $10 million in gambling with a coin. Okay, they're like, oh my God, I am the shit. But the market doesn't respond, and that coin, by the time you've moved that coin out, is
Right.
now worth $2 million.
Right.
So I think that's more the proponent here. The value of the dollar when you gamble online is the value of the dollar. It can go buy the same thing a dollar can. Now, granted, inflation changes that, but it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
I think the problem that people see, and just from the research I'm doing, is that's the issue. It's like, okay, well, now I've got these coins. How quickly can I transfer them out, get them to here? Because if you deal with any real big money, it's actually not the easiest thing to move out. We were just having this conversation. We tried to move $20 million block out. Like, that is not an easy thing to do, So when you have real money, real gamblers coming in, big money is going to have to be moved. Maybe it's not one person, but if you've got 25,000 people
happening a
playing,
lot,
there
frequently.
it is. So the idea is, can you sustain it? Can it hold?
Right.
And can someone manipulate it? See, the thing for me right now, and I'm on the other side of it, I like the gaming sector, I like all of this sector because we can manipulate it on either side.
Right.
So that's the scary part. Just seriously, you have dickheads like me who can come in and see a coin and be like, well, that's open. I'm going to put a huge short play against it.
So maybe that's where we bring a stable coin in and just squash your dreams of being able to manipulate
That's what
the
we
markets.
want. Like,
right?
please.
So I think
I want to play
we
fair,
found a
but
use
it's like
case, stable coins right there.
We're building in a dollar peg into our platforms for people that want to say, you know what, I don't want my coin to be fluctuating with the market. I want to be on a dollar peg, and we're going to allow them to do that. Yep. And it's almost like a currency forward where we cover both sides of it and provide stability. Yep. So that's very true.
And
what
that's
you're
phenomenal.
saying.
When we hope for that, like we push, like I'm a proponent of regulation and making things an even playing field. But until that time, you have to understand there's a vast group of people who know just a little bit more than the average bear, and they're going to play this game within the legal bounds. Fair is a word that your parents tell you as a child. It's not reality. You have to understand that first and foremost. The second part is that's just the nature of things. Things will always be abused. It's the same reason I think crypto's not going anywhere. This is my thesis, is unfortunately not enough people lost enough money. If you follow history and assets and newer things, it's coming back for at least that simple reason. If you believe no other reason, that alone, greed will bring it back. But we need to really understand the stabilization of that before we're going to see anything. You're having headaches with it all the time. Otherwise, these things would have already been solved.
Right, but I mean, when you talk about stabilization like that in a digital asset, I think that you have different camps that want it and people who don't want it, because like you were saying, people will take advantage of the volatility. So when you talk about the trader mentality, they want to see that volatility because that's something that they can easily trade against, right? But then when you talk about like a gaming asset, well, you don't want that fluctuating a lot because you want to be able to retain a value in that. When you look on the other side, we were talking about more of the video game side or the blockchain side, which is where I come from. You guys are all the gambler side, but in general, you have like some of these NFTs where maybe they were sold for a certain amount and then they hit the market, and depending on what platform they can be traded on, how liquid they can actually be, or what what kind of demand they have for them, that value is going to change and fluctuate over time. And so maybe something like that is not necessarily going to translate in every way, but at least it's maybe not as manipulatable because the results of that are all on the blockchain and they're verifiable, and it's something you can say, oh, well, I know for sure that this is a rare thing because it only has 100 of these and I can verify that,
Yep, and I think, and maybe speaking for myself, but I think that not all traders want to watch the world burn, or per se. I think we all want it to go.
You guys, all the traders out there, you guys all want to watch it burn, right?
But I think we all want the same thing. If it just goes up,
fundamentals.
I want a vacation with my family in the south of France. Who doesn't? Like, I just want it to go straight up. Unfortunately, I play with what we have,
Right.
So it's like when you leave this world open for people to do this, and their profession is to be able to move a market in one way or the other, well, then you can't be upset with the result that comes from it. You know what I'm saying?
But don't we want to get past that? I mean,
Without
are
a
we
doubt.
just? Because that's basically the old paradigm where we're just like, all right, well, we have the traditional markets and people manipulate them, and then we have gigantic economic crashes like we did worldwide in 2008, which was ultimately what spawned Bitcoin and the reason why we're all here right now, honestly. So, I understand that, and you're right. I think that if we allow ourselves to be put in a system like that where we can't manipulate it, then we're going to continue. People will continue. There'll be bad actors that continue to do it, and I guess my hope is always that blockchain is going to help build that new paradigm versus trying to be a wedge in an older paradigm where people are still of that same mindset. So
And I agree with you. I just think that self-regulation has kind of proved to.
People are getting used to it. I mean, initially
it's hard.
Initially, they're risk adverse, but with time, people are understanding that things fluctuate in value. They understand that blockchain or Bitcoin or all the altcoins also fluctuate. And at some point, people are going to enjoy the potential or the opportunity for the coin to not just drop, but also go up.
Correct.
Right. Well, digital value of an asset, I think, is not something that most people are comfortable with.
Correct.
When you think about it, like most of our money is digital anyways. Even people may not realize it, but most money is digital anyways. We have very little amount of like physical paper dollars, and I think those things are going away pretty soon anyways. But in general, people are not necessarily as comfortable with valuing most things in a digital as a digital asset, and so most people don't even really know about how USD works in general, and so then to be able to throw on like, well, how does Bitcoin work? Why does this even have value? That's
the first thing people say. Well, it's not backed by anything, right? That's
what gives it value? Well, it's the same thing anyway. Like, well, why is that CS:GO skin for that rifle just sold for $120,000? Who would pay that? Well, somebody definitely puts a value on that, right?
Yeah, the dollar is actually pretty digital. Go walk into your bank and try to take a few $1,000,000 out. You'll find that it's probably not there.
A few thousand. I mean, sure, a few million.
Well, I'm just saying that in reality, like the real perspective, it's all the trust system. Again, it comes down to trust. You trust your banks, the money are there. You trust the government. The government's not screwing it up and figuring it out. But the problem is like right now, again, we're in a trust kind of like vacuum. Mm-hmm. Where every time someone has been put up to the metric to be trusted, they prove to be untrustworthy.
Sure.
So I personally think until we've proven that metric, and again, I like the gaming world far better than any other realm to prove that, because once again, it takes people's mindset off of the underlying asset and more on the idea of like, hey, this is fun again. And like, honestly, like that's what it takes for someone to like
bring the fun back to it.
Like real talk, like you never see bad things go down. It's like the fun idea needs to be there. Like, give me enjoyment of this, and then I'll study into a little bit more. But right now, it's kind of this something your Aunt Susie told you last year, and now you lost all your college money, and you're pissed at her.
Yeah.
Like, you want it to be more of a, oh, look there's something came from this. And I like the idea of gamification, especially with value propositions. Right. You allow someone to play a game, maybe get to a certain level, acquire said things, build a secondary market for them. You've now built a whole new arena for people that it's person to person. So like even more than the gambling side, I really like the person to person idea of what's going to happen.
Like and that makes a good point. So like who out here owns a crypto kitty? Anybody own crypto kitties? Come on, don't be afraid. I know I see a couple out there like it was me. I mean, and so I think that's one of those things where it's one of those things where like, hey, maybe you FOMO'd in the crypto kitty, but in general, it was a cool, different, unique aspect of emerging asset class, where you can say, oh, well, these ones are all unique and they have some sort of value attached to them, and we give value to them based upon, the value that other people see in them as well, and I think that's what, in general, cryptocurrencies do, is that, they start us thinking about the fact that things can have a digital value, and when we're, using a gaming platform that's, connects to that in a way that is seamless, right? And we just don't think about it, but we still put a value on top of it. So same thing like your,
Well, the value is your community, is your ecosystem, and I could see it right in front of my eyes. I mean, you go to the chat rooms, you go to the discussion rooms, and they're full of very vibrant people and opinions. And really, that's what a coin is, right? Just a collection of people that own a piece of digital, a piece of that digital chain.
Yeah.
And if you have something good, then it'll grow. Yeah. It's just that simple. And we're growing. We're really at the point where we're going to go big time with the capital raise, with everything we've done, with the deployments we've had. So really, I think we've come a long way. I mean, it's not perfect. So yeah, I mean, there's always issues, but we've come such a long way from 2013 that
from
I
arms
think
and drugs,
This guy's living the best life over here.
No, I think you're right. I think we've come a long way, and we still have a long ways to go in all these areas. But I think gaming in general,
Well, it just is
entertainment is going to be it. Yeah, entertainment's going to be the way that we really push the masses towards adopting blockchain. So thank you guys once again for being here and hanging out with us, talking a little bit about gaming and gambling. And yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.